You find your new favorite YouTube photographer. You say to yourself, their photos are so good. They even might tell you you can take the same photos with the right skill and knowledge. And that despite the fact their gear costs your mortgage, they still say gear doesn't matter. You buy their presets, you copy their style, their composition skills, and yet your photos are still shit. Why is that? Hello everyone, my name is Joe. Welcome to the Genius of Joe. And today we'll be discussing why gear does matter, but it's not a cope to take bad photos. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I'll tell you my story, my photography story. My first camera was the Nikon D3500. It was a cheap beginner camera. For me at the time, it was great. It was a great beginner camera. It suited the skills and suited the type of photography I was doing at the time, which was a lot of street photography and the occasional portrait session. But after a year or two, my skills outweighed the camera's capabilities. It was kind of obsolete in the photos I wanted to now take and how I wanted to do them in my photography game. This really forced me to upgrade my camera to now my current Canon R6. And as soon as I got my Canon R6, all my photos significantly improved. Not just in the quality, like the megapixels or the resolution, but in general creativity. What I'm saying is, you need a camera that can match your skill level as a photographer. Now, I'm not saying you can't take good photos with a cheap camera, because you obviously can. I have. Here are some photos on the screen right now. I took those with the Nikon D3500 and they were pretty good. But the best photos I've ever taken at the time. And I still think they're pretty good to this day. But look at my work now. Not only do I have a Canon R6, but I have all this lighting equipment available to me. Obviously, my knowledge and skills improved significantly, but also did my equipment. If I didn't upgrade my equipment, I would not be able to take the photos I do right now, at all. Would you agree that I would not be able to take the same photos with the same Nikon that I had a few years back? No. So with access to this equipment, I'm able to learn new things and actually execute that in practice, rather than just watching a YouTube video, knowing of it, oh that's good to know, and then not being able to actually practice that new knowledge I learned. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of learning new things if you can't practice them, you can't execute them? If you want to make it big in the photography game and really change your portfolio for the better, it's the hard truth that you need industry standard kit. You need something good that can take good photos. If you want to attract clients, get sponsorships, you need good equipment. You're not going to get any clients and sponsorship, or at least any significant and any clients of importance, if you're going to bring on a £300 body with a little shitty £100 lens, you know? One thing I hate about digital photographers online and on YouTube is that they talk about how easy it is to make money as a photographer. One way to make £1,000 this weekend. Like, their advice is not particularly bad, because it's actually quite decent, but they tend to forget that their advice caters towards beginner photographers who don't really have access to any equipment that would require them to execute their advice. Like, if you want to take professional headshots for a company, guess what they usually say? Take headshots for a company, an office, whatever. You can't charge £100 or $100 a head if you're shooting on a £300 body. That camera is not going to be able to take good enough photos that warrant that price point. What if they want to shoot in an office area? You can't if you don't have access to any lights. Once if it's really dimly lit, it looks bad. The lighting's quite bad. It's quite orangey. It's that shitty office lights. The top light, it looks really bad. If you don't have access to a flash or any external cob lights, how are you going to do it? You can't if you don't have anything. Yes, you could say hire out kit, which is, I 100% agree with that. But if you've landed a job last minute and you haven't been paid yet, you might not have the money to be able to hire it out, or just you won't have the time to hire it out, to pick it up and to drop it off. But I do 100% recommend hiring out kit, as that's what I did when I first started landing jobs. I hired out the Canon R6. Before I bought the R6, I was hiring it out most of the time, and that was the best thing to do. But despite this, just because you have a cheap camera, that doesn't mean you can't take any good photos. But it's really just down to your color grading skills and skills in Lightroom and knowing how to work with your limitations. I just don't like it when people say you can take any type of photo, you can take masterpieces with these cheap cameras, because you can't. If you look at a lot of, especially digital photographers online, if you look at their photos, they're amazing photos. Street photography photos are amazing, but look at what cameras they use. Look at the lenses they use. They use expensive things. Now, could you take the same photos on a cheaper camera? Probably not. Especially the ones where they're using telephoto lenses, 70-200s. You can't be doing that on like your fucking kit lens, or even if you've got like a telephoto, like cheaper telephoto lens, it would not be the same quality and it would not look as good. I'm gonna give you an example. Look at these photos I took at a concert / musical gig, what you want to call it. All these photos were taken at least 5,000 ISO. Because I was shot on my Canon R6, I got barely any noise within the images, and if I did, it was easy for me to bring it down in post. If I shot at those settings on a cheaper camera, like my Nikon for example, those photos would not be usable, right? Anything that was past like a 1200 ISO would like be just unusable photos, because the noise would be so ridiculous that you wouldn't be able to bring it down in post. There's just certain things you can't do with cheap gear than you can with somewhat expensive gear. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend £3,000 on a body. You need to get the Canon R3 with a $5,000 worth of lenses and all that stuff like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you need a somewhat decent budget lens and camera to take good photos. You just need something good enough that won't provide you with those limitations that I've been talking about throughout this whole video. Most mirrorless cameras nowadays are quite good at their budget level. My Canon R6, that costs less than $1,500 now. You can get them used for like $1,200 probably, if you find a good deal. And yet till this day, I don't feel any sort of limitation when I'm using that camera. I don't feel that we need to upgrade for a very long time, hopefully never. Now, lighting is a different story. You can buy cheaper lights and still get some good images, but even then, at the end of the day, you still need a good camera and lens to take those good images. If you're a beginner photographer, you most likely own one of those cheaper cameras, which is fine. You're not doing anything at the moment that warrants you to pay over $1,000 on a camera right now. But if you want to make that leap into the more professional work and getting clients and getting paid, making a living from it, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to upgrade to a decent kit. If you want to make that leap right now but you can't afford anything, I would suggest, I said before, hiring out kit. Yes, it will take a chunk out your pay, but in the long run, it's going to make it much better for you, because you're going to take way better photos. You're going to have experience with those more expensive cameras that can determine your choices when you do eventually upgrade, because now you've actually had hands-on experience with those cameras. Like for me, before I bought the Canon R6, I used the Canon R6 on a wedding. I used it for some basic like photo sessions. So I had that hands-on experience with the camera that warranted me to get that camera, to buy it. So I didn't just buy it because, oh, it was new and hype. I bought it because I actually fucking liked it, right? I used other cameras like the Canon EOS R and the R5. Obviously, I wanted the R5, but R5 was at triple the price, so double the price, so I wasn't gonna get that. I used the R, didn't really like the EOS R, even though it was half the price, didn't really enjoy the camera. The autofocus wasn't that good in it, didn't really like it, so I got the R6. It's about finding that middle ground with your gear in terms of budget. You don't want to get too cheap, but you don't need to get too expensive either. You want to find that middle ground in the middle, paying like $1,000, £1,000 a body, get a couple of lenses. You don't need it. I'm not saying you need the Sony Alpha 1 or like some $4,000 body to take good photos. You just need something decent that gets the job done, and that doesn't make you feel like you have that limitation when you're using it. Anyway guys, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Comment if you agree or disagree on this topic. I'm up for all discussion, so don't be afraid to disagree with me in the comments. I will discuss with you. I might even find a new perspective on things. And yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.